and gentlemen. Tonight we will be watching a short debate from Mr. Romney and Mr. Obama. We will be covering a range of topics, and the coin toss determines that Mr. Romney will go first. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, we all have a ballot box on the side. Can you please choose whether you vote Mr. Romney or Mr. Obama for the next president? After the debate has finished, we will give you the chance to pick again, since you know a little bit more about their policies.
Cast your votes.
Cast your votes.
Yeah, write it down and then.
I have a feeling I know where this election is heading.
Okay, so I will start with the question. Mr. Romney, what are your plans for taxes?
Well, considering I'm going to have to do very well now in this debate, as most of you, well, all of you, seem to have voted for Mr. Obama there. Essentially, our plan on taxes is the corporate taxes are currently on 35%, one of the highest corporate taxes in the world. And to encourage business, we're then going to lower this to only 25%. So there are new businesses in America, and also the fact that he, Mr. Obama here, is going to raise middle-class taxes by $3,000. This is simply not acceptable, and this is why I will reduce tax for large companies so they can hire more hard-working Americans, and also to encourage growth. Also, we'll repeal the corporate alternative minimum tax. This is essentially an income tax. So individual taxes are so high that they discourage entrepreneurship, and we think this is very wrong for growth. And so to boost the economy, we'll only make it across the board 25% cuts in marginal rates, so businesses and consumerism can profit.
Mr. Obama?
So, in the case of alternative minimum tax, we have endorsed the buffet rule. So households earning more than $1 million a year will pay at least 30% of their incomes in taxes. For those earning more than $250,000, they'll have to pay between 36% and 39.6% of their wages in taxes.
Okay, moving on to the next topic. Do you support Obamacare, Mr. Romney?
Absolutely not. I would repeal Obamacare for many reasons. The cost of healthcare is still extortionate. It will cost $2,500 US more per household for the insurance per year. Now, can really working class and middle class families afford this? Absolutely not. It also cuts $716 billion from Medicare to pay for it. It tells people what kind of treatment they can have, limiting the access they have to these treatments. Obamacare also makes small businesses less likely to hire people because of the extortionate insurance rates will go up. This is such a ludicrous idea. To add to this, Obamacare will cost the US $90 billion a year, which is something we simply cannot afford in this recession. What I am offering is an alternative. Increase the limit so more people can have access to Medicare, but for those who can actually pay for it, in this economy, they should pay for it.
Mr. Obama?
Yes, I do support Obamacare, and this is why. When I came into office, there were many people who had pre-existing conditions who couldn't afford health insurance. With people who had diabetes or other sorts of illnesses, they could not afford the medication to actually support them and keep them alive. Now, I believe that every single person should have the right and should be able to afford sufficient medical care. Now, it is against the law for health insurance companies to base their premiums on whether or not they have a pre-existing condition. So, Mr. Romney, this goes against what you said, and I believe that this will enable people to pay the same amount as other people of the same age, and more people can afford health insurance. And so for the economy, Obamacare will lower the budget deficit, and over the next 10 years by raising some taxes and shifting most burdens.
What are your plans to reduce unemployment, the rate of which is 8.1% currently, Mr. Obama?
Well, we will have the government-funded infrastructure bank, which would offer loans to give private sector projects money to help them. The interest on these loans will eventually make the bank self-sufficient. This bank will help smaller businesses and will distribute loans to the most dependent businesses that will benefit the economy the most. We will put $3 billion into job retaining to help 22 million workers. We will offer the unemployed a chance to work temporarily as a way to build their skills before actual employment.
Okay, so as I mentioned previously, my stance on this would be to cut corporate tax from 35% to 25%, creating over 20 million jobs over the next 4 years, as it will give companies to hire more workers. And may I just say, Mr. Obama, the policies that you have on your sheet are actually very, they sound very impressive on paper. But may I just remind the audience and yourself that you had the last 4 years to do that, and you didn't. You failed. Unemployment actually has been the highest under you than almost any president in the US history.
Do you have a rebuttal? Okay, Mr. Romney, your views on contraception?
Okay. Contraception will still remain, part of the infrastructure of the US. There will be no limits to the amount of contraception a woman can have, and we will retain this. I have no view or waverings on this topic.
And Mr. Obama?
I believe that every woman should have the right to their own body. They should therefore have access to contraception, as it does not just affect her body, but her job and perhaps existing family. Governor Romney here states that he is for contraception, yet he wants to cut funding for Planned Parenthood. This is the nation's leading sexual and reproductive healthcare provider and advocate, our equivalent of Sure Start. I, on the other hand, believe women should have as much choice as possible, as we should provide women with guidance to help them making these decisions. I mean, if there are unplanned pregnancies and a woman or a family is not able to provide for this new child, what do you suggest, Mitt Romney?
Well, you see, although I may be making some necessary cuts, may I add, to Planned Parenthood, there will still be advice on the internet. I mean, the internet now has advice on virtually any topic you could need. Therefore, I think this really does limit the actual necessity of things like Planned Parenthood. Condoms will still be available in pharmacies, and if people do want to access contraceptives, they still be able to. But moving on to my views on abortion, I am pro-life. I will wholeheartedly defend the sanctity of life till the day I die. However, under some circumstances, I have to concede that abortion is necessary. For example, in the instance of a pregnancy being incest or rape, or even if it is a threat to the mother's life or under certain disabilities. So women will still be able to have abortions. However, I believe that the sanctity of life is something incredibly important to the US family and also the way of life that we hold so dear.
As I have said before, I am pro-choice. And I believe that abortion should be an option, although it's a profoundly difficult one, but I trust that women will consult their doctors, their families, and etc. before making such a life-changing decision. But you have seemed to change your tune, Mr. Romney, because there have been many campaigns and evidence showing that you are against abortion. And as a woman, for many women, this seems to limit them in their actions, and perhaps you have changed your tune because you've realised that it's caused so much upset amongst the public.
Well, you see, Mr. Barack Obama, I have always retained that in some circumstances, some things are so deep and hurtful, such as rape, that abortion should actually be allowed. I have always retained that view. However, there are some members of my party that do believe abortion should never be allowed. However, I believe that as we are in democracy, we should listen to the voice of the public, and that is why I am slightly more lenient on the concept of abortion.
Okay, moving on to the next topic. Do you think we should expand our social security program, Mr. Obama?
Expand and increase our payroll tax for those making $250,000 or to make up for the budget shortfall.
I believe we should raise the retirement age to account for people living longer, as a way to increase money and reduce the deficit.
Foreign policy. Should the US intervene in the affairs of other countries, Mr. Obama?
I believe only if there's a threat to our national security, if specifically asked by the international community, or if there are human rights violations.
Mr. Obama's approach seems to be very humanitarian, yet he doesn't take into account the staggering deficit. The Iraq and Afghanistan wars have put us in one of the greatest and deepest recessions of our time. We simply cannot afford to go to war again unless there is a direct threat to America's national security. We cannot keep borrowing money from China to pay for these things, as one day we may even have to go to war with China, and they may be our enemy, geographically. Nor can we as a country afford to send troops unnecessarily, which will result in more deficit.
In light of the recurring terrorist plots and in some cases attacks over the past 11 years, how would you deal with foreign terrorist suspects, and should they be given constitutional rights?
They should be tried in military tribunals, but not subject to torture. That's not what America is about. We're about ensuring justice, but not retribution.
That's a very interesting take on what you've actually done for this kind of thing, Mr. Obama, seeing as Guantanamo Bay is still open despite your promise 4 years ago. What I would do is they should not be given constitutional rights, as they are not in fact US citizens, and the Constitution does not extend to anyone that is not a US citizen. That is my firm view to protect our security.
And can everybody write on a piece of paper who they'd vote for next? Now that you have listened to our policies, maybe you will change your minds about who you want to be the next president.
Got a feeling this could turn out to be quite embarrassing for me again. Oh, I was about to say that is a contract you have to vote for me if you use it, so there you go. Oh, I know, if everyone decided politics that way, the world would probably be very different.
We will now count our votes.
Oh, right.
And the best man win.
Okay.
I can now announce. Okay, so before there was 12 votes for the Democrats and 0 votes for the Republicans. Now there is 6 votes for the Democrats and 6 votes for the Republicans.